The ceremonial lamp has been lit. I would now request the dignitaries to take over.
The father of India's Green Revolution and the honorary chair of Pan-Commonwealth Forum 6, Professor Swaminathan, the chair of Coal Board of Governors, Dr. Burchell Whiteman, the President and CEO of the Commonwealth of Learning, Sir John Daniel, and the Vice Chancellor of the Indira Gandhi National Open University, and the architect who guided me to shape this program on numerous occasions, Professor V.N. Rajshekharan Pillai. It's great honor and pleasure for me to welcome all the delegates, keynote speakers, theme leaders, presenters, the media persons, and all those who are involved in shaping, designing, and now implementing this important sixth chapter of the Pan-Commonwealth Forum. After a colorful start yesterday, now we have to get on to the serious business. And education is a very serious business. All of us know when we talk about the Millennium Development Goals, to which the Commonwealth of Learning and Indira Gandhi National Open University are equally committed and mutually assisting each other to achieve those goals, two things are very, very important: food and education. To reduce the poverty level, it's important to provide food for everybody. But in a globalized situation, even to give the basic minimum necessities, it is important to have education. And therefore, it's not surprising that we have the good fortune of having the father of Indian Revolution, Professor Swaminathan, and Dr. Burchell Whiteman, flanked by the two other outstanding educational leaders, Sir John Daniel and Professor Rajshekharan Pillai here. I may quote what more than 100 years ago, one of the most humane and a globalized leader, Swami Vivekananda, said about the need to remove poverty and the need to remove ignorance through education. In 1895, he said, "So long as the millions live in hunger and ignorance, I shall hold every man and woman a traitor who, having been educated at their expense, pays not the least heed to them," unquote. And he anticipated Mahatma Gandhi when he defined, "I would call a human being Mahatma if that person thinks about the poor." And really, Mahatma Gandhiji all the time thought about the poor, and he gave another talisman. If you have any doubt in shaping a policy and implementing it, just ask one question: in what way your policy or your action will lead to reduce the suffering of the poorest of the poor? And you could see the continuity of the mission and vision which Swami Vivekananda had more than 100 years ago, now becoming truly a global agenda. And that's the significance of the overall theme: access and success in learning, global development perspectives. No longer can a nation remain an island, no longer even the nationhood be valid if it doesn't connect properly with the rest of the world. And therefore, the global development perspectives will have to be the guiding principle for the overall theme. That's how we have decided it. And what the global developmental perspectives will focus on, we have four themes: social justice at the top, And to achieve social justice, particularly in the less developed and developing countries of the world, of which the Commonwealth nations constitute a major chunk, you need to have education, formal education. And formal education should certainly foster the skills development. Without skills development, the community cannot develop itself. Unless we have formal education, skills development, and community development, the peak of the social order, that is social justice, cannot be achieved. We have put the themes in that order, we move from one to the other, and the pyramid peak is social justice. And in achieving this, we started practically from 10th October when we launched PCF6 in Chennai in the presence of Sir John Daniel and Professor Rajshekharan Pillai. At that time too, we had the good fortune of having Professor M.S. Swaminathan as the chief guest. And this is the culmination. Over the last 13 months, practically every day took at least 80 to 90% of my time and the time of my team to focus on these themes and to give this kind of shape. We received about 500 abstracts. It was very difficult to reject many. Ultimately, with a lot of reluctance, we rejected some, but selected 374 abstracts. And we expected around 150 to 200 papers, but the response was really overwhelming. We got 290 papers, and the countries represented are roughly 70. And the expected delegates number was around 600. I'm not really sure whether it is already 600 or soon, by lunchtime, it will reach 600. Ladies and gentlemen, it's really a pleasant feeling to see all of you here in the southern state of India, Kerala, and this has its own intellectual traditions. India has many, but I would like to mention only one name, Adi Shankara, whose birthplace is here, very close to Cochin, Kaladi. He was an idealist philosopher who lived in 8th century and who anticipated the arrival of Immanuel Kant in 18th century. And that is the greatness of the intellectual tradition that Kerala has, and many other states have their own intellectual leaders. And we had the ancient University of Takshila and the medieval Global University of Nalanda, which is being revived now, and so many other outstanding universities of that time. And it is in order that the universities of India and Higher Education Institute of India will have to just brush up the sparkling glass that has been covered by some dust in between over the last 200 years or so, and then look into that mirror what their original identity was and what it should be, and link up with equally great traditions of Asia, Europe, and the rest of the world. And that's why we focus on global development perspectives when we talk about access and success in learning. Without success, mere access, mere opportunity will not help much the suffering masses. And that exactly is the reason why we have chosen this theme, and we are here. I welcome all of you once again and wish a great success of this five-day conference. Thank you so much. Now, I request the chair of the Board of Governors of Commonwealth of Learning, COL, Dr. Burchell Whiteman, to make his speech.
Our chief guest, Professor Swaminathan, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen all, I join in extending welcome to all of you on behalf of the Board of Governors of the Commonwealth of Learning. There are, I believe, 2 members of the board present this morning, and on their behalf I speak, as well as of the other 10 members who comprise this board, a board which is drawn from representatives in every region of the Commonwealth, and which, in its membership of 13, has 11 different nationalities. I welcome you all to this 6th Pan-Commonwealth Forum. I welcome those who are devotees and who have been coming regularly for the past 5, and those who are new on this occasion. I know from the limited experience I had yesterday and the day before of the pre-forum meetings that you're in for a good time. You're also in for a hard-working time. And so I hope you have come prepared for that. I know that you have. I know that we can also expect good outcomes from this forum. And eventually, not just good outcomes, but greater impact, as those in the monitoring and evaluation workshop were discussing yesterday. And this success is going to be due not only to your presence here today, but to the fact that COL, under the leadership of Professor Sir John Daniel, and Vice President Professor Asha Kanwar, has built an amazing network of stakeholders, interest groups, institutions, individuals who are making a critical difference in every region of the Commonwealth and indeed impacting on the larger global community. COL has a staff of 43 persons, 36 in Vancouver and 7 in Semka in Delhi, New Delhi. And that small team is able to accomplish far more than any organization of comparable size could reasonably expect to do. And so I want to thank them for the work that they do, and thank all of you for being part of this forward movement as we seek to make a difference to the lives of people in all the nations of the Commonwealth and the wider world. What we're doing here over the next few days is more than just sharing of ideas and expertise and experience, important though that is. But that is only a vehicle to the eventual goal of ensuring that we expand the limits of social equity and justice in the Commonwealth and throughout the world. And we do this by creating, as we have just been reminded, the opportunity for people to empower themselves, and to empower themselves through access to quality education. My job is not to make a speech this morning, but I just want to pay tribute to another of the great international icons which this country has produced. Everybody is familiar with perhaps the most well-known of Mohandas Gandhi's statements, quotations, "Be the change you want to be in the world." But I would like to draw attention to another of his famous statements, and it is, "What you do is insignificant, or maybe insignificant." The quotations are sometimes alternated. "What you do is insignificant, but it is important that you do it." Over the next few days, I am sure that you will find much to do. I want to thank you for agreeing to be involved today and over the next 4 days, and on behalf of the many in whose name and in whose cause we function in this Pan-Commonwealth Forum. I believe, I am convinced, I know that what we do in the next 4 days will indeed make a difference to the lives of many. Do enjoy and be encouraged and enriched by the experience at PCF number 6. I thank you.
I now invite the President and CEO of the Commonwealth of Learning, Sir John Daniel, to address the audience.
Professor Swaminathan, Professor Pillai, Professor Ramanujan, the Honourable Birchall Whiteman, representatives of UNESCO, UNICEF and other intergovernmental organisations, ladies and gentlemen. As President of the Commonwealth of Learning, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to Kochi. And I'm delighted that the Chairman of COL's Board of Governors, the Honourable Birchall Whiteman, is here with me on the platform, and that 2 other members of the board, Ms. Jenny Glennie and Ms. Miriam Categum, are here too. As Chief Executive of COL, I'm extremely fortunate to have a board that is highly committed to our work and a brilliant and dedicated international staff, all of whom are here. But I greet you also on behalf of my colleagues who were not able to come to Kochi, but who have worked tirelessly to ensure the success of the event and the many pre-conference workshops and meetings. For many of you, this will be your first experience of a Pan-Commonwealth conference on open learning, because we try to direct most of our sponsorship funds to people who have not attended a similar event in the past. So I offer a special welcome to you. These forums are part of a tradition at COL that goes back to PCF 1, held in Brunei in 1999. And from there we moved around the Commonwealth to PCF 2 in Durban, South Africa, PCF 3 in Dunedin, New Zealand in 2004, PCF 4 in Ocherius, Jamaica in 2006, and PCF 5 in London in 2008. In each case, COL works with a local partner, and I'm delighted to thank our partner for PCF 5, the University of London, for being a sponsor of this event too. Here in Kochi, we have had workshops on teacher education, child-friendly schools, the use of community media in development, technical and vocational skills development, the use of open educational resources, and the virtual university for small states of the Commonwealth. I thank all of you who came early for those events, and I hope that you found them both stimulating and useful. All those themes and more come back in the very full program that we have put together from your papers and proposals, as Professor Ramanujan said. Our theme is access and success in learning. This reflects our conviction that it is no longer enough, indeed it never was enough, to pride ourselves on the role of open and distance methods in widening access to learning. We must judge our efforts by the success of those who engage in learning that we facilitate. And I mean not just success in gaining the certification on offer, but in using those new skills and knowledge for the development of themselves and their communities. Our work here is grouped under 4 themes. So what are the keys to making the link between access and success in learning in each of them? Here are my own hypotheses based on my participation in the pre-conference events for your critical assessment in the coming days. Regarding community development, I suggest that the key concept is participation by all members of the community in all steps of the process. In striving for social justice, it seems to me that the key is to link firmly to the wider economic and social systems in which people live. Success in skills development has the same requirement, added to which it is essential to achieve relevance, particularly in our context, to the informal economy in which so many of our fellow citizens work. And finally, in the area of formal education, and making the assumption that the content of learning is appropriate, then the key is to get people to engage with that content, something to which technology can make a major contribution. I invite you to test these hypotheses against your own experience as you work within the themes of our conference on access and success in learning, global development perspectives. Finally, COL is not only looking forward to planning its next triennium, but also to PCF 7. We have not decided on a venue for that conference yet, and we invite expressions of interest from institutions or organizations in being our partner for that event. Talk to me or one of my colleagues, and we will follow up with you. So I again welcome you to this impressive gathering, thank our partner IGNU and our international and local sponsors, such as the National Institute for Open Schooling, and wish you an exciting time in Kochi. I hope that access to PCF6 will lead each of you to greater success in implementing learning for development when you get home. Thank you. And it is now my great pleasure to call upon Professor Pillai, the Vice Chancellor of the Indira Gandhi National Open University, to address you.
Professor M. S. Swaminathan, Chief Guest and the Honorary Chair of PCF6, Honorable Bershel Whiteman, Chairman of the Board of Governors of Commonwealth of Learning, Sir John, President of Commonwealth, Professor Ramanujan, Program Chair of PCF6, Vice Chancellors of the various universities from India and abroad, distinguished ministers from Commonwealth countries, distinguished delegates representing the various Commonwealth countries, members of the organizing committee, members of the Board of Governors of the Commonwealth of Learning, Professor Asha Kanwar, Vice President, Commonwealth of Learning, representatives of various sponsoring organizations, members from the printed and electronic media, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to all of you. At the outset, let me on behalf of the Indira Gandhi National Open University and on my personal behalf, welcome all of you to the 6th Pan-Commonwealth Forum organized jointly by the Commonwealth of Learning and Indira Gandhi National Open University. I also take this opportunity to appreciate the efforts taken by the other sponsoring organizations, both from India and abroad. I am particularly happy to welcome you all to this city of Cochin in the state of Kerala. This small state, Kerala, has attained total literacy almost 25 years ago. And this city of Cochin and the district of Cochin was the first 100% literate city in the whole world almost 25 years ago. I welcome you to the city. It is also a state which has achieved almost all the developmental targets of the Millennium Development Goals and global social mobility indicators. We have attained, this particular state has attained universal school education. And women's education and women's empowerment, this state is one of the 4 running states in the country. Indira Gandhi National Open University considers it a great privilege to work with Commonwealth of Learning for this particular conference. India, just like any other Commonwealth country, is undergoing revolutionary transformations in education. Literacy, school education, skill development, post-school higher education, all these things are the major targets the government of India has put forward now. We have a large number of universities. We have made school education a right. Universal literacy and digital literacy is in our agenda. All these things are possible only by networking of the various activities which are happening in the Commonwealth countries. And therefore, this particular conference has a lot of significance. Sir John mentioned about the overall objective of the Commonwealth of Learning, learning for development. And without education, we cannot expect development of any kind. Professor M. S. Swaminathan used to say, I used to quote wherever I go in schools and colleges or universities. Nutrition and basic education. These are the two basic things which are required for a developing country. If we attain nutrition and basic education, the rest of the things will come automatically. And this particular state, Kerala, has shown that this, because of prominence or emphasis on these two issues, this state has to some extent attained developmental parameters. Indira Gandhi National Open University, looking at the Millennium Developmental Goals, has formulated a number of activities across the country. We are also working with the central government and the various state governments, federal state governments in the country, to look at the contextualized requirements of education. Our country, just as any other Commonwealth country, we believe that deprivation of education opportunities, that is the most serious crime one can ever imagine. And therefore, we are trying to network with public and private institutions all over the country to provide education, training, and skill development opportunities. It is also very important to note that the Commonwealth of Learning has an emphasis for teacher training. Technology-enabled teacher training, that is one area which all our countries have to look into. We need millions of teachers to teach in the primary schools in the country. All our universities, all our teacher training institutions put together, they cannot achieve these targets in the years to come. And therefore, how with quality, technology-enabled teacher training can be achieved. That's a major activity. Many universities are looking at it. We have also collaboration with major universities outside India to achieve this target of providing training, retraining, and continuous competency advancement of teachers at all levels. We also have very specific programs looking at providing capabilities to the agricultural workers through open and distance learning technologies. We have Indira Gandhi National Open University presides over a national information literacy program. It's a major task force created by the Government of India. And there are parallels of such activities in all Commonwealth countries. We also look at skill development. We have seen that there is a lot of educational infrastructure available outside the formal confines of the universities or colleges in the country. How this educational infrastructure, both intellectual and infrastructure capabilities available outside the formal confines of the university and higher education institutions can be tapped to achieve the Millennium Development Goals. This is a major activity which Indira Gandhi National Open University is spearheading in the country. As a result, we have, in addition to the universities and other higher education institutions, we have a network of almost 500 civil society organizations working in this country. We are collaborating with them to provide knowledge and skills. This is a very diverse country. The diversities are so huge. We see that the context of education, the context of learning varies from place to place. And we try to identify the capabilities, the available in the local areas, and then try to make use of these capabilities to provide knowledge and skills which are required for improving the quality of life of that society, neighborhood society. And we network with several 10,000s of such people who are helping the government through the university to achieve such targets. We have also started the assessment and certification of prior learning. And this has happened in many other Commonwealth countries, I know that. We believe that there is a lot of knowledge and skills available outside the so-called educated people. We tried to identify these aboriginal knowledge and skills in the area of agriculture, in the area of culture, number of other areas. And then try to assess this knowledge and skills and then provide certification which are equivalent to that of the university certifications. We have also started a few institutes for providing ODL capabilities to agricultural workers. And we have instituted 5 institutes of competency advancement of teachers through technology, 5 full-fledged institutes in the country, in the 5 regions. And all these activities are not enough to achieve the real targets of education and development in this country, and this could be the case with all the Commonwealth countries. When this Pan-Commonwealth Forum opportunity was given to Indira Gandhi National Open University, I thought of what could be the theme of this conference. I suggested, earlier it was mainly concentrating on access. We coined access and success in learning, because without success, whatever access we achieve, that could have probably negative effects even. And therefore, providing livelihood opportunity to large number of people who are receiving education, that is a major responsibility. Access, success in life overall. So that is the theme of this conference, and we have identified 5 different areas which is common to all the Commonwealth countries. I am very confident that the deliberations which you are doing during this Pan-Commonwealth Forum will give a roadmap to all the countries under the Commonwealth, and I wish this program all success. Thank you very much. Let me also invite Professor M.S. Swaminathan. He needs no further introduction. Everybody knows. He is also working with guiding Indira Gandhi National Open University in many areas. He is chairing a chair for sustainable development in the university and developed many important activities which are specifically needed for looking at the environmental concerns, ecology, and overall development of this country. We are extremely fortunate that he is chairing this conference, and he is here as a chief guest to address this conference. Thank you.
Honorable Mr. Burchell Whiteman, the Chairman of the Governing Board of the Commonwealth of Learning, Sir John Daniel, the very dynamic and visionary President of COL, Professor V.N. Rajshekhar Pillai, who during the last few years completely transformed IGNO. It made it a national presence, the largest university of its kind in the Commonwealth. Professor Ramanujam, whom I know has spent a lot of his waking hours in the last 1 year trying to develop the program for this meeting, and all his colleagues who worked on the organizing committee, members of the Commonwealth of Learning, as well as those who are here from different parts. I'm told 70 countries, Professor Ramanujam said, are represented here. We want to welcome all of you. And the members of the media, and ladies and gentlemen, I feel very privileged to have been associated with this very important meeting, because already Sir John, as well as Professor Rajshekhar Pillai and Professor Ramanujam, all of them have explained the importance of open learning, open and distance learning, in the whole framework of learning, the learning. And Sir John has done this tremendous job in COL, of learning for development, as he himself, to quote his own words. Learning for development, ultimately, we all need development for what you call a quality of life, and it's important learning becomes a tool not only for learning per se, but also as a method of hastening and accelerating development, which is also socially equitable. That is why you find here social justice at the top of the pyramid, as Ramanujam said, formal education, skills development, community development, and social justice. I think in all, the two major pillars of our society, the Commonwealth, are democracy and development, equitable development and a democratic system of governance. Both of these require education as the foundation. Without education, you don't have an electorate which can make a discerning choice, a choice which is good for the country. At the same time, development without skills, without education. And as already mentioned by Professor Rajshekharan Pillai, we are fortunate to meet in Kochi and in Kerala, because this has been a state in this country which has been at the forefront on the educational frontier for a long time. Not only now, education, healthcare has received very high priority here. This is why in almost all the, not only Millennium Development Goals, but all the other indicators of quality of life in the world, like IMR, MMR, and so on, this state is as good as any of the developed country in the world. So it shows the power of education. It also shows when you have an educated society, you become a discerning society, you become more tolerant. This state here in Cochin, one of the oldest churches of the world, Christian churches in the world, I think probably the oldest one here. All communities are here, Hindu, Muslim, Jews. There was a Jewish town, one of the earlier where people visit, because many of them have gone to Israel. I must also tell you incidentally, a few years ago, I think in the 50th anniversary of the founding of Israel, the University of Jerusalem gave me an honorary doctorate. I'm not talking about the honorary doctorate, but what the president of the university, while introducing me, he said, "You come from a country which is the only one which has not persecuted Jews in 2,000 years of our history." I was very proud when he said the only one which has not persecuted Jews. That again, I think, is the value of education. Education, understanding, and you all agree to disagree in life. In many cases, we cannot all agree, but that does not mean we become violent, we fight, and so on. So education is the fundamental requirement for all human beings. And I am so happy now. What has happened with distance and open and distance education, it has opened up a new space. Those who had no space in the formal education system have been provided with space now. A space for the spaceless is a very important contribution of this methodology of pedagogic methodology. And this is why it becomes completely inclusive. Once you add it also in your own methodologies of pedagogic methodologies, you have then a very inclusive system of education. And hence I want to again thank both the Commonwealth of Learning and IGNO for what they are doing in this country and in the world to provide space for the spaceless in the education system. Now, I want to make you all expert. The number of very good program has been given here, and I just want to add a few things to what has been said so far. The whole, in our country, unfortunately, in spite of all the efforts made for education for a long time, Swami Vivekananda was quoted by Ramanujam. Vivekananda also said, he has so many quotes, whatever he says is worth quoting. One quotation is, "This life is short." In those days, not now, life has become quite long now. But its vanities are transient. That is still true. You see sometimes a football game in Johannesburg, he is a hero the day he wins. The day he loses, he becomes a zero. And therefore, he said, vanities are transient, but he alone lives who lives for others. And that is what in the education are people who live for others. Teachers, for example. I think the noblest of all professions, we say, both doctors and teachers, and I think we should salute them on this occasion. In India, in spite of all our efforts in the last 63 years after we got independence, still we have a long way to go in terms of achieving total literacy. According to the data of 2007, male literacy is about 80% and female literacy is about 62%. In other words, then we have a long way to go. This is where I think the more flexible system of education, including distance education, which I will come to shortly, play a very key role in this inclusive methodology of overcoming. Now, as the Vice Chancellor Rajshekharan Pillai said, IGNOU has been very innovative. The moment the United Nations declared, at the instance of UNESCO, 2005 to 2014 as the decade of education for sustainable development. This particular decade is called Education for Sustainable Development. But you know, when you say sustainable development, it has got three components of sustainability. Formerly, we only thought of the economic sustainability. Then we thought of environmental sustainability. We now, social sustainability is equally important. All the three, economic, ecological, and social sustainability. So when you say sustainable development, it must be sustainable in all these aspects. Professor Rajshekharan Pillai created a chair for sustainable development, and which I have the privilege of occupying during the last 3 years in honorary capacity. To tell you how you relate education and sustainable development, I want to give a few examples of what has been done under the overall umbrella of this Sustainable Development Initiative of IGNOU. The very first course, those of you who are interested, what I am saying is, if you are interested in this, adopting in your own country, there is an original course of introducing sustainable development, sustainability science as a whole, what are its key characters, how do you achieve it in real life, not only a concept of sustainable development, how do you convert it into reality and so on. Then you take different aspects of sustainable development. Again, Professor Rajshekharan Pillai rightly mentioned nutrition and education are the two legs of a human being. Nutrition for the body, education for the mind. Without it, you can't really function effectively. So we have taken nutrition literacy as one of the important aspects of sustainable development. There is a comprehensive course on nutrition literacy dealing with chronic hunger, that is protein, energy, undernutrition, hidden hunger caused by micronutrient deficiencies, transient hunger like what we see sometimes either due to weather conditions or civil strife, you have problems of them. All of them are dealt with. How do you achieve nutrition security? Then more recently, because I want to say in this part of the world full of wetlands, one of the large, most beautiful wetlands, I hope some of you are either staying on or you have gone before, the Vembanad Lake here, beautiful lake, one of the world's most beautiful lake. It's also Ramsar site, that is migratory birds come from Africa all the way here to the Ramsar site. Now that lake is now full of people who come here for holidays. There are houseboats. It has almost become like the Dal Lake of Srinagar from Kashmir. That is also a beautiful lake. So people come here both for health tourism, Ayurveda, one of the ancient traditions of Kerala. They come here. We wanted to ensure that these lakes are preserved for posterity in their pristine purity. It is not that we completely pollute them and go away. This is why this course on lakes, you will find, is based on the principle, good ecology is good business, bad ecology is bad business. In other words, the houseboat owners should understand their own long-term survival depends upon their keeping the area clean, the water pure, and so on. So this is an educational tool. Everyone, the houseboat owners can all undergo, they can register for this course on sustainable management of lake system. We have, in my own center, with the help of the Vice Chancellor, we have a few community colleges, one for fisher communities. Those of you from the Commonwealth countries, including our chairman of the board, those who have got a long coastline, will be very interested in this approach of the training of the fisher communities through the community college from capture to consumption. For example, at the capture level, the technology used is a cell phone, is a mobile phone, which now the small-scale artisanal fishermen, they carry it with them. They get data on wave heights. They also get data on where the fish are. We are talking about skill development. These fishermen, the small-scale artisanal fishermen, who used to take about 10 hours in the sea for catching the fish, they are able to get even more quantity of fish within 2 hours and come back. A sort of transformational technology. The mobile telephone, the wireless telephone is really a transformational technology. It has transformed the way in which we work, the way in which we communicate, and so on. Starting with that, in the case of fisheries, from end to end, from capture to consumption, because when the fish come to the shore, the women take over from there, the processing, marketing, keeping it free, and so on. So the community college there, therefore, educates the people through the method of learning, in one way, learning by doing. Long ago, in 1972, I coined the term techniracy. In a lecture I delivered, Princess Lilavati Memorial Lecture at the University of Mysore. I coined the term because I found a large number of people are still illiterate from a formal sense of point of view. We can't wait until they all become completely formally literate before their economic well-being can be enhanced. And therefore, I thought that let us take learning by doing. It is now called Krishi Vigyan Kendra by the Indian Council of Agricultural Research Science Center. For example, one of the first one, we made the experiment, women, we call them tribal women, those indigenous communities, unfortunately illiterate because of the circumstances, but they were fisher people, inland fisheries. We taught them how to extract the pituitary gland and inject it, what is called induced breeding. I tell you, within 2 or 3 days, they became masters. The masters, so learning by doing was one method. We should now combine all methods, distance education and vocational training, the skill development, which has been mentioned here as one of the aims. I would say don't worship a tool. What is important is to select the tools or the combination of tools which can achieve your purpose fairly quickly. In other words, providing the basic education people. Here in this area, we are also hoping, with Professor Rajshekharan Pillai's help, we will develop a community college for those who are cultivating below sea level. If you go further down, if you travel a bit in this area, you will find there is a lot of rice cultivation 2 to 3 meters, 4 meters below, like the Dutch, below the sea level. The farmers developed the methodology, not the scientists. About 150 years ago, farmers in the area developed a method by which they can grow. I think our friends from Maldives are here, Bangladesh, Maldives, they're all very concerned about potential sea level rise. Therefore, how do we learn now how to manage sea level rise? How do we cultivate crops below sea level? So we hope, with the help of IGNOU, we put a community college in this area with a great deal of emphasis on the management of sea level rise, on the management of cultivation below sea level, and so on, rice cultivation. They take 1 crop of fish, 1 crop of rice. During the rainy season, 1 crop of rice. During the non-rainy season, when the sea water comes in, you take a crop of fish. It's a rice-fish rotation. It completely changes the whole atmosphere of the... There are many other opportunities of this kind, combining a number of skills, using the educational method of... Now, few words I talked about sea level rise, climate change has become. Yesterday I was traveling in the plane from Delhi to Kochi. The Minister of Agriculture of Kerala was also in the plane. He had gone there to plead for some help to the endosulfan victims, those who were affected by this pesticide, endosulfan. And he was telling me that something is happening to the weather. We have got too much rain in this area. Those of you who come from this area probably know this area has been experiencing more unseasonal rain. What is happening now, I won't attribute to climate change, but the fact remains that somehow some unpredictable changes are taking place. We didn't expect unseasonal rains or unseasonal drought and so on. How are we going to manage it? I think this is where IGNOU in the coming years has to play, and also all distance and open learning institutions will have to play a great deal of importance. Because Dr. Balaji, who is here, who is to work with us in the early years of the Village Knowledge Center movement, what we call now Gramin Gyan Abhiyan, he used to always say that if there is a problem, there is also a solution. When we started in 1992-93, the village knowledge centers, based upon the integrated use of the internet, the cable TV, FM radio, and now, of course, the cell phone, there were a number of difficulties were there. The normal telephone won't work. There is no telephone. Electricity doesn't work. If the electricity didn't work, then we put the solar. If the normal landline of the telephone didn't work, we had a wireless. At that time, the Motorola system. In fact, the Motorola gave the gold accord. In other words, what I am trying to tell you is, do not be overwhelmed by problems. If there is a problem, there is a solution. Because when you go into new technologies, people will say, no, no, this cannot be done. The rats will come, this will come, that one. Don't believe that. It is important to get on with the job of utilizing modern technology. So in this case of climate management, it's going to be a mega catastrophe, I must say, particularly for many of the tropical and subtropical countries. Some countries, Sir John's place where he stays, 1 or 2 degrees centigrade, we will be happy. if it is higher, they will be happy. But here, 2 degrees centigrade in Punjab means 7 million tons of wheat less in that region, what we call the heartland of the Green Revolution. Therefore, we should learn how to manage it, and this can be a very important educational tool. We are trying to establish there are 127 major agroclimatic zones in India. In each one of those zones, we would like to establish a climate risk management research and training center with a community college there for training local, what we call the grassroots level, democratic institutions. 1 woman, 1 male member in every grassroots level democratic institution. We have now 1.5 million women. 50% of the positions in the village level are for women now. It used to be 1/3. It has been raised to 50%. There are a large number of them. Similarly, men, you train them all in the art and science of management of climate change. That is drought, increase in temperature, floods, unseasonal floods in North India, sea level problems, coastal storms, tsunamis, and so on along the coast. All of them we should train, because forewarned is forearmed. Unless you take anticipatory action, you will not be able to face some of these problems. We'll all the time be only having relief operations after a tragedy has happened. We can also prevent number of tragedies. I won't say everything can be prevented, but much of it can be prevented. In other words, this is my last point. We need a large army of trained people, skilled workers, teachers who can also pass on their own capacity to others, their own enthusiasm to others. We decided, because in many cases in our former colonial countries, we somehow think the rural people don't know much. There is always a sort of contempt. They are not educated. Education does not mean they lack wisdom. Wisdom is very different. But nevertheless, Mahatma Gandhi in my country said once, educated young people went to him and said, we want to help rural India. How do we help? Because he used to say that we will not have complete freedom without the freedom of the villages. Gram Swaraj is the pathway to Purna Swaraj. These were his words. And therefore, how do we? And he said, villagers don't want your physical labor. They can do it. You marry your intellect with labor. Marry intellect with labor, or brain and brawn together. That is, your contribution should be how to manage it better, all of them. This is where we thought we must give some recognition to the rural people who are innovative. We developed, with the help of the Tata Trust, a Jamshedji Tata National Virtual Academy for Rural Prosperity. Tomorrow, the 6th convocation of that particular academy is taking place in Mumbai or Bombay. These are all grassroots level academicians who had just studied up to the school level, 8th class or 10th class, but who have mastered the digital technology. In fact, our former President of India, Abdul Kalam, when he addressed the first convocation of this Jamshedji Tata National Virtual Academy, he said the academy represents the celebration of rural India's core competence, celebration of our rural core competence. And these academicians, they are also selected by peer review, not that you call everybody an academician. And today, the number of fellows in the academy are reaching about 2,000. My own ambition is, from every village of India, one woman, one male member will be a fellow of the academy. That means we'll have 1 million fellows at the academy over a period of time. I think it will happen with the kind of programs IGNO has launched. We'll have more and more educated people and so on. The major point is our rural people in most of our countries, rural population is 60 to 70% of the population. They are predominantly, their livelihood is predominantly agriculture. When I say agriculture, crop husbandry, animal husbandry, fisheries, forestry, and agroforestry. And they all require much more, the latest knowledge. There are new problems coming up all the time. Climate change is one, which is going to be an important one. Market information. And it is important to get them the correct information. During the recent visit of President Obama of the United States to India, one of the areas where the government of India and the government of the United States agreed to collaborate was in the area of what they call National Monsoon Mission, the monsoon behavior in the terms of climate, what is going to go to climate prediction, market prediction, crop yields, which are prediction. Because today, once again, 2008, the world faced that position. Now, again, it is facing price volatility, volatile prices of commodities are going up. When the last one happened as a result of high oil prices, the petroleum prices went up almost $150, $160 per barrel, going up to 200. Fortunately, it went down. But now I think it is associated with climate. So Russia says that we can't export wheat this time. They used to export a couple of million tons. Then the prices go up, enormously go up. And today's hunger in the world, according to FAO, we were talking UN Millennium Development Goal frequently. The first among that goal is reducing hunger and poverty by half. And that, unfortunately, not only not being achieved, there were 800 million children, women and men going to bed hungry in the year 2000 when the UN Millennium Development Goals, which I call a global common minimum program for human security, were adopted. 800 million. Today, the latest figure is about 1 billion. In other words, not only we are not going down, 10 years later, we find the hunger is increasing and not going. Therefore, the hungry person, the Roman philosopher Seneca used to say that a hungry person listens neither to reason nor to religion, nor is bent by any prayer. He wants food today. And therefore, how do you then achieve? This is why I've been talking about climate management, use of education as a tool, the new skills which are needed, in the world formation and so on. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have a great deal of challenges. The next few days, I'm sure you will cover. But you are on the forefront of a knowledge revolution, a learning revolution, I will call it, a learning revolution in the world. Those of you who are sitting here, you are in the frontiers of a learning revolution, which I hope the learning will be something which will improve the quality of life. A very famous industrialist of India, J.R.D. Tata, a great man, one of the great Tata houses, chairman of Tata House formerly, he used to say, I want an India which, I don't want to see India a superpower, but I want to see an India which is a happy country. All of us want, that's what. Wonderful, coming from a very great, not a superpower, but a happy country. I think education is the mean to happiness. Without it, you can't. And I wish you all the best, a very good session. Thank you again for inviting me. Doctor, thank you.
Now, the customary vote of thanks. Although it has become customary, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank Professor M.S. Swaminathan, who has really a very, very busy schedule in the Parliament. And tomorrow he has that very important meeting organized by National Advisory Committee. And in spite of all that, he committed to participating in this inaugural session. He was a little worried when we tried quite unsuccessfully to get some central minister or a state minister. I told him, sir, when you are there, your presence compensates the absence of everyone. I am extremely thankful to Professor Swaminathan for his words of wisdom and a virtual detour on open distance education, on climate change, on sustainability, on highlighting the importance of this conference in the context of achieving the Millennium Development Goals. Thank you, sir. Professor Swaminathan's concern was ably compensated by the presence of Honorable Burchell Whiteman, who started his career as a teacher and worked as a teacher and educator for 40 years, then became a politician in 1989 and attained the vision of a statesman, and he is the combination of the educator and the governor and the Jamaican High Commissioner. When I met him in November last year, we had some very interesting time, and I could see the extreme intellect, the sharpness of the intellect, and also the humane approach in whatever he did and spoke. It's indeed our privilege and pleasure to have Burchell Whiteman with us. Thank you, sir. Sir John is not a stranger to all those who are associated with open distance learning, and India is not a strange land to Sir John. Very recently, I think on 20th, he was very close to my village. He participated in that conference attended by 6,000 women farmers. And on his way back to Madurai, I just out of curiosity phoned him and asked him how he found that place and the people. He said it was fantastic and excellent weather and very good conference on the women farmers using mobile technology. And Sir John's visit every time gives us some new insight into the new dimensions coal is taking. And coal's agenda perfectly matches with the agenda of our open learning system in India and also the other Commonwealth countries. Thank you, Sir John. The Vice Chancellor of Indira Gandhi National Open University, Professor Pillai, is a man of action, or Vice Chancellor in action. And in our circles, some people call him that he is a man in a hurry. But whenever he talks about certain issues related to the country, the university, and of course the whole of the developing world, I used to tell him, sir, you are not in a hurry at all, because your speed, which others see as a man in a hurry, actually needs more acceleration, because he is a man who would like to see the results of any action. And whenever I put any proposal, he would quickly look at it and go to the real point of action. And whenever he asked me about the progress of the work related to PCF6, he would not spend much time discussing details. He would simply put a few pointed questions and then would say, okay, go ahead. I am extremely thankful for his understanding and complete cooperation and guidance. Thank you, sir. I must thank, of course, the last day I reserve for thanking many of my colleagues individually, but here I must put on record the wonderful job done by PCF6 Secretariat, particularly Himar Arjun Singh, Fazil, and all colleagues who are our team leaders, committee members, and of course the IGNOU full paper authors, and above all, the overwhelming response from all the countries and institutions who have written so many papers which could be seen from their presence. I thank all of you, and I thank Le Méridien for making wonderful arrangements for this grand function, and I wish all of you have a very, very fruitful interaction and meaningful dialogue, which will bridge virtually and metaphorically whatever gaps that exist, because usually we talk about the north-south divide. In the context, there are so many north-south divides, but those divides can be effectively filled only when we open up the dialogues. And the dialogues will have to be very effective and meaningful. Thank you so much.